centuries of colonialism, human trafficking and enslavement, genocide, and engineered underdevelopment at the behest of European and U.S. powers. For a specific example, Guatemala's civil war, which saw the genocide of over 180,000 non-indigenous people at the hands of the fascist particular anecdote that's affecting where solidarity existed between our communities was we were showing up to these county board meetings at the commissioner's office, and almost like kind of spontaneously we had these signs for the asylum seekers demanding housing and so on. And the folks a part of the ceasefire resolution campaign were also there. And everyone just started writing each other's slogans on the back of our signs, kind of braiding them together. And it was really powerful to see that in the community. I want to end off by saying that at least for my part, Adrian's going to speak again, that the forces responsible for the violence and the mass displacement and the state neglect of our asylum-seeking siblings here in the U.S. are the same forces responsible and complicit in genocide, oppression, dispossession, and mass displacement of the Palestinian people.
That's right. The Palestinian people are among 280 million forced migrants, 60 million refugees today worldwide. Forced migration is global and systematic. It was actually a comrade from the Palestinian youth movement that crystallized that our struggles and our resistance are linked when they said that the people and communities in Gaza are united that all the children eat first. Because if everyone is gone, if everyone is martyred, but if the children survive, then the struggle for liberation lives on. This is central. This is central to the migrants movement too, because our migration is an act of collective resistance. It is us exerting our basic human rights. And we do so for those that come next, for the next generations. And we organize today so that our families may one day return home to a genuinely liberated nation. The national liberation of the Palestinian people is central to the struggle and the solution of ending forced migration. And so as we close today, we just want to invite everyone, there's some flyers going around to join us. Link solidarity through the Asylum Seeker Solidarity Campaign. Mobilize with us, be a community host to asylum seekers. Donate to the Portland Sanctuary Fund. Come talk to any one of us. But we'll also hopefully see you at Nakba. And just to end, let's end with a chant. I'm gonna say, money for housing and education, not for wars and occupation. Money for housing and education,
not for wars and occupation.
Money for housing and education,
not for wars and occupation.
Thank you so much for your time.
So those of you who are familiar with a Seder, or if you're not, this is a representation of an empty Seder plate. Most years, our Passover tables would include a feast. But this year, it would be hypocritical to sit down for Seder and recite the traditional line, "Let all who are hungry come and eat," while supporting the Israeli government starving the people of Gaza en masse to further their genocide. Today, in solidarity with Gaza, our Seder plate is not full, it is empty. Today, we will not feast in a time of forced famine. We show up for Palestine not just by emptying our Seder plate, but by contributing to Palestine's survival however we can in the many ways we are called to do so. There are folks going around, I believe, handing out flyers, and on the flyers are some QR codes. They're being passed around, posted up. Please take one and think of an amount that you could give to help for the different causes, the families, the causes on these flyers. Whatever you feel like you can give, think about multiplying that by more, by 1.5, by 2, by 8. Think about what you can do and scan the code to donate now to support the survival of many loved ones in Gaza.
I'll do it one time, repeat after me, and then we'll just go into it all together. No pride in occupation, no pride in occupation, no room for apartheid nation, no room for apartheid nation. We're steadfast, we're not patient, we're steadfast, we're not patient. Rising for liberation, rising for liberation. No pride in occupation, no room for apartheid nation. We're steadfast, we're not patient. Rising for liberation. No pride in occupation, no room for apartheid nation. We're steadfast, we're not patient. Rising for liberation. No pride in occupation, no room for apartheid nation. We're steadfast, we're not patient. Rising for liberation. Pride in occupation, no room for apartheid nation. We're steadfast, we're not patient. Rising for liberation. No pride in occupation, no room for apartheid nation. We're steadfast, we're not patient. Rising for liberation. In occupation, no room for apartheid nation. We're steadfast, we're not patient. Rising for liberation. Free Palestine!
Hi everyone. I'm going to read a passage for Kaddish, which is when we fill our cup to sanctify our ritual and begin. And as we begin Passover this year, we're compelled to name out loud over and over that we gather for ritual today while genocidal violence is being inflicted on Palestinians in Gaza by a state that purports to act in the name of the Jewish people. And it's customary at the Passover table to ask 4 questions about the meaning of our ritual. But today we're faced with one most important question. What does Passover require of us in this staggering moment? So we'll begin to answer by affirming, if we fail to uplift the voices of Palestinians, their experiences, we have not fulfilled the requirements of our Passover Seder this year. If our Passover focuses exclusively on Jewish trauma and not on the ways that our trauma is being weaponized to oppress people, we have not fulfilled the obligations, the requirements of our Passover Seder. If we celebrate this festival and harden our hearts to the horrifying stories and images from Gaza that have been crying out to us for 200 days, we will not have fulfilled the requirements of this Passover Seder. And if our gathering here does not motivate us to do everything in our power to act, to end the genocidal violence Israel is unleashing upon Gaza, we have not fulfilled the requirements of our Passover Seder. So with these challenges before us, we say, Passover is for liberation.
Passover is for liberation.
Not for genocide and occupation.
Not for genocide and occupation.
So we're going to hear from Sam from the Friends of the Filipino People in Struggle. Next, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. Thank you, JVP. Nice to see a few familiar faces out here too. This is a really incredible gathering that we have here, really powerful. So just want to start with that. Really appreciate the folks who are here right now for this. You know, we celebrate Passover, and so I think we can still consider this a celebration despite the somberness of the occasion, right? So, greetings, friends, comrades, chaverim. My name is Sam. I am the U.S. coordinator for the Friends of the Filipino People in Struggle. The Friends of the Filipino People in Struggle is a global organization of non-Filipinos united in the belief that the Filipino people have a right to struggle against U.S.-backed imperialist rule by any means necessary. I am also a proud anti-Zionist Jew, but more than that, more importantly, I'm an anti-imperialist and I'm an internationalist. So, from my Jewish side, I say, Aziz and Pesach, Good Yantif, Happy Passover. But as an anti-imperialist, we know why we're here, right? Pesach is one of many holidays in our Jewish traditions that celebrates liberation and the triumph of our people over those who would have us annihilated. The story of Pesach is one that teaches us that people for generations can be held in captivity, can be oppressed, but will never give up the hope and, more importantly, the struggle for their liberation. And so for Seder, we often sit with friends, family, and I know for many of us also chosen family, right? Chosen Jewish community, and we fulfill the mitzvah of Magid, right? We tell the story of Moses and his approach to the Pharaoh with the demand, let my people go. But his demands went unheeded, and it took the unleashing of plagues for him to finally give in. Even after 9 horrific events for him and his people, the Pharaoh continued to harden his heart against the Jewish people. And it wasn't until his firstborn son was slain that he finally conceded. And even after that, he had a change of heart, right? And so, comrades, chaverim, what is the lesson that we can take from this story and apply to the genocide that we've watched unfold over the past 6 months? Will the people in power ever concede and give up their power voluntarily? No. We have seen, not just over 6 months, but over 75 years of brutal colonization, that the Palestinian people have asked for their freedom. They have asked for the international community to intervene. They have asked for support through boycotts, divestments, and sanction against Israel. They have demanded for an end to occupation. And we too here in the US, we have demanded that our legislators do something to end or at least even ease the suffering of the people in Gaza. But what is it that actually made the world stand up and take notice? What is it that has scared the Zionist entity so badly that they react like a cornered dog? It is the unified Palestinian resistance which has shown the world what revolutionary optimism looks like. It is the unified armed struggle of the Palestinian people that demonstrates to the world that no matter how long a people are oppressed, and no matter how brutal that oppression is, people will resist until their liberation is won. From the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine strategy book, one quote that sticks with me is, "The only language that the enemy understands is the language of revolutionary violence." Comrades, Chaverim, across the world and throughout history, we can see this truth. Wherever there is oppression, there is resistance. From the Philippines, where the New People's Army wages a people's war for national and social liberation, to Palestine, where the unified Palestinian resistance has shown the world what struggle and sacrifice truly look like. It is the masses of oppressed people who will liberate themselves and eventually the world from the evils of imperialism. While the unified Palestinian resistance recognizes their primary enemy as the Zionist entity, they recognize that it is US imperialism that props up Zionism. Just like they prop up the fascistic US Marcos regime in the Philippines. And so, it is the duty of us, peace and justice loving people, to fight and support others who fight this rotten, dying system. If we want to stop a genocide, we must also support the struggles for national liberation, from Palestine to the Philippines. We must lobby, advocate, and make our demands heard. But we must also educate and organize and call out to the people that liberation lies at the end of arduous militant struggle. Comrades, Chaverim, why is this Passover different from all other Passovers? It is because people across the globe are awakening. The dying system in which we live can no longer go on in the ways that it has. The unified Palestinian resistance is a beacon of hope, one that is guiding their own people toward liberation. And in doing so, they guide the rest of us, the rest of the world's oppressed people, a bit closer to liberation as well. For us here, whether we are Jewish or not, we must of course demand an end to the genocide and demand a ceasefire. But we cannot stop there. We must uplift the cause of the Palestinian people and all oppressed peoples of the world. It is no longer enough to demand of imperialism, "Let my people go." We must stand with the oppressed nations and peoples as they resist imperialism and struggle for liberation. So I wanted to close with one chant you might know and one you might not. So first, maybe you've heard this before, but when I say from Palestine to the Philippines, y'all say, "Stop the US war machine." From Palestine to the Philippines,
Stop the U.S. war machine!
from Palestine to the Philippines,
Stop the U.S. war machine!
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free!
from the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
Thank you.
In other years, we would break the matzah to remind ourselves of the brokenness of the world and of ourselves, the ever-continuing work of liberation. This year, with our Seder plate empty, we imagine breaking the matzah in two as we acknowledge the profound brokenness Israel is inflicting on Palestinian people. As the Palestinian Christian pastor, Reverend MTAR Isaac has powerfully testified, And here to share his words is my amazing partner, Selma, a Swana community member, to read the words of Reverend MTAR Isaac.
We are broken. The people of Gaza are suffering. They have lost everything except their dignity. Where are they to go? There is no place for them in this world. What is happening in Gaza is not a war or a conflict, but an annihilation. Continuous genocide and ethnic cleansing through death and forced displacement. World political powers are sacrificing the people of Palestine in order to secure their interests in the Middle East. They say our annihilation is needed to keep the people of Israel safe. They offer us as sacrifices on the altar of atonement as we pay the price for their sins with our lives. The people of Gaza today want life. They want a night without bombing. They want medicine and surgical operations with anesthesia. They want the simplest of life's necessities: food, clean water, and electricity. They want freedom and life with dignity. Those under bombardment, beatings, and persecutions do not want to hear about reconciliation and peace. They want an end of the aggression.
Even as we imagine breaking the matzah now, we loudly declare that it is not enough to merely acknowledge the brokenness. We insist that what is broken must be repaired and restored until there is true and lasting liberation for all who live between the river and the sea.
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Thank you, and free Palestine.
Last week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed House Resolution 883, which condemns the chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," as anti-Semitic. Oregon Democrats, Earl Blumenauer, Val Hoyle, and Andrea Salinas all voted yes to this atrocious resolution. The critiques of "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free" have been used as a Zionist diversion tactic for years. It is a way for Zionists to weaponize anti-Semitism to attempt to censor Palestinians and their allies. This phrase is a call for Palestinian freedom and for equal rights for all the people who live between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. As JVP Action has stated in the past, if you believe that freedom for Palestinians means eradicating Jews, it says more about you than anyone else. Stop trying to tell Palestinians what they mean when they call for freedom. So Wyden and Blumenauer, hear us now as dozens of Jews and allies in your district proudly chant, "From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
From the sea to the river, Palestine will live forever.
From the sea to the river, Palestine will live forever.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
One of the central components of the Passover ritual is to tell the story of the escape from slavery toward freedom. The story is also known as the Magid, or the beginning of the Exodus. We know how to tell our ancient Exodus story of liberation, but this year we are working toward a future where the world is equally versed in the story of the liberation of Palestine. And make no mistake, we know that it's not us Jews who are going to free Palestine, but Palestinians themselves who will free Palestine. We know that for as long as Zionism has existed, Palestinians have been resisting. We know that Palestinians have always been fighting for their liberation, and that Palestinians will liberate themselves. We honor their resistance, their steadfastness, their decades-long fight for freedom. We recognize and support the right of Palestinian refugees to return, the right of all colonized people to resist their occupation, and the right for Palestinian self-determination. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the sea to the river,
Palestine will live forever.
Exodus tells the story of rebellion against a cruel ruler who tried to quell the uprising of the oppressed by ordering the mass killing of their children. In response, mothers and sisters worked together to defy this order and try and protect their children, even clandestinely sending baby Moses, who later became a leader of the resistance, in a basket down the river, away from his family in order to try and save his life. Today, so many mothers are making unimaginable sacrifices while trying to protect their children from Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza's nation future. As children are bombed and starved each day, mothers take extraordinary measures to find a way to provide them with nourishment, protection, and safe passage. Today, women in Palestine and all over the world are working together to fight for life, survival, and justice against the forces of genocide and erasure. Next, we have Katie, the U.S. coordinator for the International Women's Alliance, a global alliance of grassroots women's organizations who are opposed to war, exploitation, and occupation, and who know that women's liberation can only come through national and social liberation of all people.
Thank you so much for having me on behalf of the International Women's Alliance. Our members all over the world have been mobilizing for Palestinian liberation and an end to occupation over the last 6 months, so it's an honor to be here with all of you today. The reason why the International Women's Alliance exists is because women all over the world for hundreds of years have experienced violence at the hands of violent and occupational militaries. We know that women are caught in the crossfire of this violence, not just interpersonally in their families, but at the hands of the state more often than anything, which is why in the International Women's Alliance, or IWA, we say it's state violence that is the #1 perpetrator of violence against women. We are carrying on the historic legacy of women's resistance to occupation and militarism against our families and our communities. And we have to continue doing this more and more. Just yesterday, the US government allocated another $95 billion in military aid, with $26 billion going to Israel, $61 billion going to Ukraine, and $8 billion going to the Indo-Pacific to defend Taiwan. What they didn't talk about was that these are the 3 fronts that the US is waging war on today to defend US hegemony around the world. And it's up to us as organizers, as peace-loving people, to stand in opposition to that. Because when the military spending increases, it not only inflicts more violence against women in their communities around the world, but it also costs us something. Because today, we're living with less and less social services that our communities rely on. More and more things that should be provided by our elected officials and funded by our tax dollars are instead being privatized, and the contracts are being handed over to corporations who are only interested in profits and exploiting women, gender minorities, and all working people. So when we say ceasefire now, we have to extend that globally to also mean end military spending, fund our services, make healthcare affordable, make education accessible. We know that women across the world are impacted by this U.S. militarism as well. From women in the Philippines who have been mobilizing for years against U.S. imperialism, saying sahod itaas, presyo ibaba, which means prices down, wages up, because the influx of foreign, the influx of foreign imports makes it so farmers there can't even afford to sell their crops. We see women in Indonesia being forced off of their land at the barrel of the military's gun so that mining companies can go in and dig up the precious metals that are needed for this CHIPS Act and the semiconductors that our military relies on. And we see women here in the US and gender minorities being denied access to reliable health care, having to work 2 to 3 jobs and still not being able to put food on the table. And then when a global pandemic hits, our government dares take away the benefits when the pandemic is still raging, and it was working mothers who experienced the brunt of that. But we also know that while women are caught in this crossfire, women are core to the struggle to change the system. It is the sacrifice and daringness of women throughout generations that show us that we can win and we can change the world when we are united together. Like Sam said earlier, we see the women in the Philippines who join the New People's Army, who take up the gun to demand that the U.S. get out and that the bases of the U.S. stop being put in the Philippines. And over the last 6 months, we have seen women in Palestine show their steadfastness in not only protecting and defending their families, maintaining culture as resistance, tending to the wounded, but also teaching their children to continue the fight for the next generations and the generations to come. Palestinian women have always taught life to their community. This summer, the U.S. is hosting its largest military exercises called Rimac, or Rim of the Pacific, on the islands of Hawaii. This includes 26 other countries, including Israel, who has no business being a part of U.S. military exercises. The people of Hawaii are part of the same fight against U.S. occupation and militarism as the people of Palestine or the people opposing Cop City in Atlanta. We see Rimac having impacts on farmers who are not able to tend to their land during these exercises, on workers and women who are harassed by the troops when they deploy onto land, and on young people who are trafficked at higher rates when foreign militaries are present. We also know that these 26 other countries are puppets of the U.S. government who do not care about their citizens, and our local elected officials are no different. They are only there to serve the interests of U.S. imperialism. A few of you may be familiar with Portland's annual Fleet Week celebration during the Rose Festival. Boo! We hate it, and this is our year to stop it. That's right. When Fleet Week comes to town, for 5 days, Portland opens its doors to the ships that have devastated and destroyed the world. They have been deployed all over the Indo-Pacific region. They have been a part of the Rimac exercises, and they have even been to the Mediterranean region. Portland sweeps homeless camps during Fleet Week so that it's more inviting for people coming in from out of town. And Portland also allows and makes it more easy for naval officers to let loose on the city and wage violence against women and homeless people as well. There's a coalition of us who are organizing to oppose Fleet Week this year. We invite all of you to be a part of it. There will be some flyers that come around later. We have to recognize that the opposition to Fleet Week is opposing the militarism that the U.S. is directly sending to Israel on a regular basis. And it'll be right in our river for an entire week in June. So we have to oppose it. We have to be there. One final thing I want to highlight is that the Portland Public Schools are currently considering an offer to introduce JROTC programs into the high schools across the district. They're doing this while cutting positions and blaming teachers. They're wanting to hire JROTC staff, claiming that these programs develop stronger leadership skills for students. But we know that they only fuel the war machine. What our students need are real solutions, which are safe schools, reasonable class sizes, and teachers who are paid enough to come to school ready to teach and support their students. All across the world, people's needs are not being met because we live in a system which requires our blood, sweat, and tears to maintain its power. The U.S. is dependent on us more than we are dependent on it. It needs our families, our tax dollars, and our labor to make the system run. So EWA is here to say that we should join together, because when we do, we can win a system that truly meets our needs. All over the world, women, youth, peace-loving people are coming together to oppose what the U.S. is doing in Palestine, to oppose what their governments are doing as lapdogs to the U.S., and to oppose the system that chains us up and dehumanizes and isolates us from one another. The time is ripe to heed the call to free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Starve the war, not the people!
Starve the war, not the people!
Thank you.
Thank you so much. To continue our Passover story. As the people fled their enslavement, as the Exodus story goes, they then came upon the Red Sea and were stopped in their tracks, unsure of how to get across the great waters and continue to escape their captors. Only once the people gathered their courage and waded out into the sea, as far as they could go, did the waters miraculously recede, offering a clear path to freedom. This brave act of pressing on against uncertainty by stepping out into the waters, not knowing what was ahead, this was initiated by a person named Nashon. Nashon's actions reflect the truth that we cannot fight for freedom alone. Like Nashon, we must bravely move together as we reject and leave Zionism behind. We know that we must move towards our communities, towards each other, and towards countering our institutions, elected representatives, and our brutal government, to hold them accountable for their complicity in the oppression of the Palestinian people. Right? Right. So today we tell this story to recognize the collective nature of the struggle against imperialism throughout the world. We recognize our collective power as well, and the need for solidarity between and within our movements. Here to speak more on the necessity of solidarity in this work and the need to hold the U.S. war machine accountable for its crimes is Mog, an organizer with Clown Block, which is a member of the organization Resist U.S.-Led War PDX. Mog is a coordinator on the Portland City chapter of Resist U.S.-Led War and also on the steering committee for Cancel Rimac Portland campaign. Give it up for Mog.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Mog, like they said. I'm with Resist U.S.-Led War Portland. For those of you that don't know, Resist U.S.-Led War is a global network of anti-imperialist organizations united against U.S. militarism. From troops on the ground crushing sanctions and war games abroad to weapons profiteering and rampant poverty and exploitation here at home, we resist U.S.-led war in all its forms, which brings us naturally to the genocide of the Palestinian people. The United States has always been a champion of Israel's settler occupancy of Palestine. Since World War II, America has been actively manufacturing Israel's attempted monopoly on the region's natural resources and geopolitical position. Israel has always been and will always be an imperial project of the United States of America. It is our tax dollars as US citizens that go into the weapons and financial packages sent to Israel, including Biden's most recent monstrosity of a funding bill, as mentioned earlier. 95 billion US dollars. 95 billion US dollars! Do you know how many of us are surviving off of maybe $1,500 a week? I mean a month? I wish. We are struggling, the people are struggling, and they are sending our money. They are literally taking money out of our paychecks that are supposed to go to feeding us and our families in exchange for our labor and sending it to Israel. To destroy the masses over there at the same time. This money goes to support Israel and Ukraine and America-made proxy wars. Definitely, no doubt about it, calculated and created by the United States to extract profit and escalate tensions worldwide. Because like we know, rule number one of the land of the so-called free is war is where the money is. The playbook has always been here and it's always been simple. First, the US forces other countries into initiating and escalating wars against their neighbors or their own people. Then our politicians pay their lobbyists big bucks for their weapons, as promised. We send those weapons abroad to massacre innocent people in made-up conflicts over religion or nationality when it's really about the same old thing, which is imperial greed. After the rich in the United States make a pretty penny off of their wars, their government stooges rustled up for them, the state establishes yet another puppet in the war-torn, so-called liberated region to do their bidding. That's how the United States was established in the first place, and that's how it remains in power today. That's what it's doing in Ukraine, that's what it's doing in the Philippines, with AFRICOM, with NATO, with AUKUS, and with Israel. It's the same tired story, and it's always the people who pay. We pay with our lives, our safety, our families, our land, our histories, our cultures, our trauma, our autonomy, farmland, ecosystems, economies, anything and everything we have is taken to feed this endless gluttony of the US war machine. It is our responsibility as citizens in the so-called United States, in the belly of the beast, to stand up in absolute and unwavering solidarity with all peoples undergoing imperial violence. The state structure profiting off of the Palestinian genocide is the same structure that keeps our workers poor here at home, keeps our indigenous populations violently neglected, keeps Muslims disenfranchised and displaced in India, keeps the people of the Philippines in a constant state of civil war, and insists on getting us into a World War III scenario with China that no one wants and no one needs. Right here in Portland, our legislators are funded by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. IPAC, a lobbying group that advocates for pro-Israel policies. Oregon Senator John Wyden, who we're here to confront, takes the largest cut from this genocidal democracy eater than any other Portland politician. The masses of the world are inherently connected in our struggle against imperial oppression and violence, and united, we can take the war machine down. From Palestine to the Philippines, stop the US war machine. From Ukraine to Hawaii, stop the US war machine. From Syria to Taiwan, stop the US war machine. We can demand that Wyden and other so-called representatives cut their ties with IPAC. We can demand that weapon manufacturers in our city shut down operations. We can demand that Israel gets sanctioned. As US citizens here in the belly of the beast, it is our responsibility to rise with our comrades across the world in our collective struggle for liberation. The people of Palestine have courageously offered the world a beaming example of resistance. For over 70 long years, their intifada has ceaselessly waged its just struggle for land, people, and the right to sovereignty. The oppressed masses of the world stand with them. We watch in awe as Palestine resists the US-led war machine in its most severe form, a resistance that had should have never been put on their plate. It should have never come to them. We know that it is inevitable that Palestine will win, just as we know it is inevitable that all the people of the world will win in our ongoing horrific battle against imperial overlord. This summer, the U.S. war machine will be conducting its biannual war games on the occupied islands of Hawaii, like Katie was saying. These are the Rim of the Pacific Military Exercises, or RIMPAC. Bian USA, the International Women's Alliance, and Resist US-led War have united to oppose these disgusting war provocations. As always, these war games cause devastation to the ecology of the land they occupy. There's a huge strike and violence against gender-oppressed people and the poor wherever they go. This summer, we'll be traveling down to San Diego to the National Convergence to oppose them and all of the inter-imperial wars that they seek to instigate. The inter-imperial wars, which of course will come on the blood of our people. Are we going to stand for that? No! Like Katie said, our city hosts Fleet Week as part of the Rose Festival, where Portland shows off warships due to detonate explosives in Hawaii's coral reefs later at RIMPAC. These ships are accompanied by unabashed military recruiters that seek to brainwash and collect the most disadvantaged and vulnerable people in our city. These same ships are the ones that prowl the Mediterranean and terrorize the people of Palestine. The U.S. war machine is global and it has many heads, but Fleet Week is coming here to Portland and we have a chance to cut off one of those heads. The same machine that has been stealing the land, enslaving the people, killing non-combatants and civilians, and blaming liberation armies for their crimes is coming here this summer in the form of Fleet Week on our waterfront. So please join us. Cody is walking around giving out flyers to get involved in the Cancel RIMPAC and End Fleet Week campaign. We would love to see you on the streets. The people united can just like literally never be defeated. So all of us together, we can shut down Fleet Week. That's something that we can do. The road to liberation is long, violent, and it's absolutely necessary. One time Palestine will be free. One day Guam will be free. One day Hawaii will be free, and one day Portland will be free. Today we rally in solidarity with Palestine. Tomorrow we shut down Fleet Week. Next we eradicate the U.S. war machine in all its forms from our planet. It is inevitable because the people united will never be defeated. Thank you.
Everyone, we're gonna sing a song. Rebel against the war they sell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel and let us do this right. Rebel for all the people of Gaza tonight. Rebel against the war they sell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel and let us do this right. Rebel for all the people of Gaza tonight. Rebel against the war they sell. Rebel against the lies they tell. Rebel and let us do this right. Rebel for all the people of Gaza tonight. Rebel against the war they sell. Rebel
Hi folks, before Betsy comes up and talks to us about the 10 plays, we just want to get, before our rally ends, we just want to get some folks together. We've been talking a lot about solidarity, right? So just for the last several minutes of this rally, if folks want to come sit with us around the Seder plate and give our speakers some love, come a little bit closer, you're absolutely welcome to. There's some shade here. So come on in. Make yourself cozy. Thank you so much. All right, next up we're going to hear from Betsy from Jobs with Justice and Healthcare Workers for Palestine.
Yes? All right. This is beautiful, this empty Seder plate and everyone gathered around it. The plagues of the occupation. When Pharaoh, the brutal ruler, refuses to free the enslaved, the Exodus story goes, God unleashes a series of 10 plagues onto the people. The 10 plagues of biblical lore were material plagues that targeted the oppressors who held the enslaved captive. As U.S. citizens, we are complicit as our government enables and funds the oppression and genocide of Palestinian people and their history. We reject this role, this complicity. We are gathered here today, joined by so many others around the country and the world. We use our ritual practice, the wisdom and the example of our ancestors to fight for an end to the plagues of war, genocide, occupation, and imperialism in the land of Palestine and throughout the world. In this year, we highlight the 10 plagues of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. Number 1, genocide in Gaza, intentionally killing or wounding over 100,000 people, including over 14,000 children. Destruction of all infrastructure that supports life, displacing most of the population, and intentionally starving over 2 million people. Number 2, destruction of homes and entire neighborhoods throughout Palestine. Number 3, administrative detention, the imprisonment of adults and children, often under harsh conditions and torture, without due legal process. Israel is the only nation that prosecutes children under military proceedings, and they imprison hundreds of children each year. Number 4, ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem and the West Bank through land confiscation and demolition of entire neighborhoods. Number 5, the apartheid law, limiting freedom of movement, separating families, and separating people from their agricultural and grazing land. Number 6, environmental devastation in Gaza, from the detonation of weapons, including chemical weapons, to sound pollution by drones and missiles, destruction of agricultural land and wildlife terrain, destruction of sewage treatment facilities. Number 7, theft of Palestinian natural resources, diversion of water from Palestinian aquifers to Israeli settlements, confiscation of Palestinian land that had been used for farming and grazing for generations. Number 8, apartheid laws and infrastructure. Discriminatory racist laws that privilege Israeli Jews over Palestinians in almost all aspects of life. Number 9, erasure of culture, identity, and history. A racist curriculum that does not allow teaching of Palestinian history or culture, restrictions on flying the Palestinian flag, cultural theft, and destruction of so many historic artifacts and archaeological sites. Number 10, restrictions on the right to freedom of religion, prohibition of prayer at Al-Aqsa Mosque, and targeted destruction of mosques and churches in Gaza. The 10 plagues of this year. We name these plagues as we work together to eradicate them and to collectively build the new world that we all know is possible. May it be so.
Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes. Not another penny, not another dollar. No more money for Israel's slaughter. Not another dollar. No more money for Israel's slaughter. Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes. Not another nickel, not another dime. No more money for Israel's crimes. Not another penny, not another dollar. No more money for Israel's slaughter. Not another penny, not another dollar. No more money for Israel's slaughter.
All right, next up we have Soraya from Zaytuna.
Thank you everyone for being here. My speech is kind of long, but I promise I won't make it boring. I want to touch on all bases that I can today, as much as possible. Today is a really hard day, as I am sure it's for everyone. It marks 200 days of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. For 200 days, the U.S. government and the U.S. president has been complicit in the genocide, defending Israel and the IOF of their actions against the Palestinian people. They continue to deny our numbers, even though the health ministry has provided proof. They continue to deny the rules being broken against international law. They continue to deny that collective punishment is being used against Palestinians. They continue to deny the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people and the ongoing apartheid system in Israel for the past 76 years now. We know the real reason for America's complicity in the genocide against Palestinians. It is because America has a history of colonization, genocide, land theft, and stealing other countries' natural resources to uphold their own benefit. Gaza has an estimated $500 billion worth in oil and natural gas, not to mention the beautiful beaches and scenery that Gaza has. That's a large profit in real estate for the U.S. and Israel. This is why America is so invested with Israel in this ongoing genocide. I hope that every American knows the true history of America today and will never forget the propaganda that the Western media and their government has fed them through this genocide. This has always been the facade. But people have been brainwashed into believing that their country and government has always cared about the safety of their people. And reality is, they really don't care about you at all. America has bragged about how this country is the only country you can have freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and freedom of choice. They claim that this country is a democracy. But how? This is no democracy. We don't have freedom of speech. When this country forbids us to use our chant calling for absolute freedom, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, we don't have freedom of speech. We don't have freedom of expression when we are targets for wearing our kufiyas. We don't have freedom of religion when Muslim women are being harassed for wearing hijab, or Muslim men for wearing thobes out in public.
not to mention the continuous harassment and death threats that we receive on a daily basis at our masjids. We don't have freedom of expression when we use our resistance to the violence and intimidation of our oppressors. We are anti-Semitic or showing terrorist tendencies in the American eye. This pro-Palestine movement has taught us that we care for our own. We are many in numbers, and this is why the American government feels so threatened by us. Because we are more in numbers than their Zionist lobby. We are bigger numbers than the people who run this very country. And this is why they feel so threatened, and they pay for the headlines on Western media that we are terrorist groups or terrorist sympathizers and anti-Semites. Because they want to make sure that they don't lose this space that they have been able to uphold for decades. We stand with any form of resistance groups. We view them as freedom fighters, standing their ground to protect their land and their people. America will label them as terrorist organizations when they resist to hand over whatever America wants from them. Just look at the proposal a few weeks ago that Biden made to the Houthis. He asked the Houthis to stop invading the ships that had weapons going into Israel, and he would remove them from the terrorist organization list. That says a lot about democracy. This is the time that we stay strong. We uphold our values and we don't just give up. Yes, we are tired. Yes, we have been working our butts off, pressuring our elected officials and representatives every day. Yes, we have been doing everything we possibly can to get our higher-ups to join us and stand on the right side of history. We have been boycotting. We have been fighting for large companies and universities to divest from Israel. Yes, we are tired, but the Palestinian people are even more tired. They have been living in a genocide for 200 days. We are only witnesses to it. Last week, the House of Representatives passed a resolution that called our chant "From the River to the Sea" anti-Semitic. That this chant is calling for the extermination of the Jews. But then the Jews turn around and use the same chant. And when Netanyahu's party is asked what it means to them, they openly express their views on erasing Palestinians from their holy chosen lands. The Nakba in 1948 is in our history books. We are not going to wait for this Nakba to be in history books. We are not going to wait for this Holocaust against Palestinians to be in the history books. We are not going to wait for Netanyahu and Genocide Joe to be exposed for their evil deeds in the history books. We expose them now. We continue this fight no matter what we have going on, because the people have to make sure that this never happens again in our lifetime, in our kids' lifetime, or in the future. This is only getting uglier, and we need to be ready. Israel is trying to bring us into a regional war. They have been bombing Lebanon for 150 days so far. They have been bombing Rafah in Syria. And recently they have started bombing Iran because they want a bigger war. That is the only way Netanyahu can stay in power, is if the war keeps happening, if it's ongoing. So again, we need to keep our fight strong until we get justice for our Palestinian brothers and sisters, and the justice that we all deserve. I also want to point out, excuse my language, a lying piece of shit senator from Florida, Marco Rubio. who claims that in our marches we chant, "Go Hamas, we love you, we support your rockets too." Bullshit. And another chant that he claims we say, "We want justice, you say how? Burn Tel Aviv to the ground." Now we all know what our chant is really, don't we? Now let's show the piece of shit, Senator Rubio, the correct way of saying our chants. We want justice, you say how? End the siege on Gaza now! End the siege on Gaza now! End the siege on Gaza now! We want justice, you say how? We want justice, you say how? End the siege on Gaza now! End the siege on Gaza now! Free, free Palestine! 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 Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. Up next to speak on the need for us all to raise our voices in solidarity, we are joined by Jalis Haidar, a local Kashmiri poet and comrade, to share.
Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. This is a time when a lot of people are wanting us to shut up through violence, through bans and censorship. And despite that, we continue to show up in greater numbers, and this shows our determination, and this also shows that we have an alive conscience, each one of us, which directs us towards this. When we are already 7 months and 200 days into a genocide. So this is dedicated to each one of you who speaks up despite all these barricades. These 2 short poems. One of these I just wrote right now on my way here because I wanted to dedicate something to the JVP who have been doing an incredible job here. Will I succumb to the pressure of the state when a genocide rages on? Will upon bombs ever I let them spend my wages on? We have filled the countless pages on with the martyrs' names, so no matter what cages on us, we will rage on. And we walk on as comrades of truth, the children, elders, and youth, and let it be known that this is no dispute. This is a fight for freedom, and freedom we will snatch from the clutches of the brutes from Gaza to Beirut. Oh, I swear upon all the children's tears, I swear upon a mother's prayers, who did not have to go anywhere and were bombed in the safety of home, that for all the challenges we will be prepared, that there will never be any fear, no worldly or otherworldly snare that may ever derail us from this cause. Not the peacemakers with blood on their hands, not all of those Gal Gadot fans, not the ones who usurped the land, not the Zionists with their plans, not any of the procession bands, because all of us united we stand, and so we will prevail, and for sure our foes will fail, because baby, this is Jewish voices for peace, and this will be Zionism's disease. One of the poems which I have been reciting since a while, and all of you connect with it, so that is next for each one of you, dedicated to you who continue to speak up, show up. Consider this my gratitude as well as a dedication. Through my poetry and through my songs, through my speeches and sizzling tongues, I will speak up. Through the blood in my each vein, through the very flood of pain, I will speak up. For the sake of children brutalized, For the sake of high houses pulverized, I will speak up. For the sake of all seeing martyrs of the land, for the sake of what they died within hand, I will speak up. For the sake of the one true path, for the sake of beloved Rifat, for the sake of the broken shrine, for the sake of Palestine, for the sake of the river and the sea, for the sake of the olive tree, for the sake of my mother and land, for the sake of my motherland, through the torture and the gag, through the rebirth of our flag, till I breathe my last breath, till they cane me to death, I will speak up, I will speak up, I will speak up. Free Palestine!
In all other years on Passover, we eat. In all other years on Passover, we eat bitter herbs called maror in Hebrew, to remind us of the bitterness of being enslaved and the bitter cost of our freedom. Why do we eat bitter herbs on this Passover and this genocide? This is a time for mourning. White phosphorus, other chemicals and residue from bombs and bullets, tear gas and debris from destroyed buildings all pollute the air, water, and soil. Pollute this earth. Pollute Palestine. Pollute us all. This toxicity renders all celebrations bitter. This year we do not celebrate our liberation. We mourn ongoing genocide in which we are intertwined through our tax dollars, our religious, cultural, and political institutions, our identities, and our own stories of liberation. This genocide, this mourning, this bitterness, it will not end when Passover ends. Maybe the question is, should we only eat bitter herbs until Palestine is free? Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Natalie, a leader at Portland State Super, and will share with us this poem, Identity Card by Mahmoud Darwash.
Hey y'all, can you guys hear me back there? Like over here? Y'all can hear me, right? I couldn't hear a lot of people, so I'm just making sure. I just want to first start off by saying thank you for creating me and other Palestinians space at this time. I really appreciate it. It's carrying on a tradition. My mom is from Jerusalem. My mom often celebrated Passover. Actually, she's often talked about sharing Passover with other Jews in her community. She's not a Jew, but she celebrated anyways. So I'm doing a tradition that I didn't know I even had. So thank you. And I want to also acknowledge another part, which is that we are currently on one of the most successful occupations of all time, which is the stolen land of the indigenous people of this country. As an indigenous person myself, I cannot stand here comfortably without acknowledging the land that was taken from the indigenous people of this country. So. Write down, I am an Arab, and my identity card number is 50,000. I have 8 children, and the 9th will come after a summer. Will you be angry? Write down, I am an Arab, employed with fellow workers at a quarry. I have 8 children. I get them bread, garments, and foods, and rocks from the garments, books, and from the rocks only. I don't supplicate charity at your doors, nor do I belittle myself at the footsteps of your chambers. Will you then be angry? I said, write down, I am an Arab. I have a name without a title, patient in a country where people are enraged. My roots were entrenched before the birth of time. And before the opening of the eras, before the pines and the olive trees and before grass grew. My father descends from a family of the plow, not from the privileged class, and my grandfather was born as a farmer, neither well-bred or well-born. Teaches me the pride of the sun, and my house is like a watchman's hut, made of branches and cane. Are you satisfied with my status? I have a name without a title. I said, write down, I am an Arab. You have stolen the orchards of my ancestors and the land in which I cultivated, along with my children, and you left nothing for us except for these rocks. So will the state take them as well, as it has been said? Therefore, write down on the top of the very first page, I do not hate people, nor do I encroach, but if I become hungry, the usurper's flesh will be my food. Beware, beware of my hunger and my rage. Thank you.
We're gonna do song number 4. People have song sheets. You want song sheets? Some people have song sheets. We have more song sheets. Let's pass out song sheets. Raise your hand if you don't have song sheets. Yeah. Raise your hand if you still don't have song sheets. We're gonna sing number 4. Enough people here know it that we're just gonna sing it a few times and you'll pick it up. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. Like drops of water, shake the rocks as they rush down the fall. We know that together we are strong. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. Like drops of water, shake the rocks as they rush down the falls. We know that together we are strong. One more time, twice as loud. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. Like drops of water, shake the rocks as they rush down the falls. We know that together
like drops of water, shape the rocks as they rush down the falls. We know that together we are strong.
Miriam was the sister of Moses. We honor her as a prophet who protected her sibling and sang to her people to cross through the narrow place and supplied her people with water while wandering through the desert. We honor the feminists and the queers and the trans people who have always been the backbone of our movement.
Yes.
We reject Zionism's cynical attempt to pinkwash its crimes, in the same way that we reject the U.S. government's attempts to cover up its imperial wars in the Middle East as some sort of benevolent mission. We stand with Palestinian feminists and queers in saying no one is free until everyone is free.
Yeah.
Joining us now to share is Angie, a Swana Jewish artist and community events coordinator. As an Armenian Iranian Jew, they bring a cultural perspective which is often overlooked in Western activist spaces and even anti-Zionist spaces.
Hello, can everyone hear me? I know sound's been an issue sometimes. I want to start off with saying that all of our struggles for liberation are intertwined. Queer liberation, trans liberation, feminist and indigenous struggles, all of these struggles are intertwined and dependent on Palestinian liberation. Tomorrow is Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. This is yet another genocide which the Zionist entity refuses to acknowledge as it works together with Turkey and Azerbaijan to further ethnic cleansing of indigenous Armenians, Kurds, Assyrians, and Yazidis. Just as it works with India to continue oppression of Kashmir and with Western powers to create weapons of devastation unheard of before for a scale of genocide and brutality impossible to comprehend. Whole families wiped, whole generations wiped. Zionism must be purged from Jewish spaces for true liberation, for Palestinian and for Jewish people.
Indeed.
All of us here, we refuse to allow Zionist gaslighting and propaganda to continue its reach. Zionism, just as any other form of fascism, such as Turkish nationalism or German Nazism, has harmed the most vulnerable populations over and over again. It has harmed Jews of color and those culturally mixed who don't fit into the Ashkenormative narratives, and Jews of European descent alike. As we gather to keep our Jewish ancestral struggle in mind on Pesach, we must fight for Palestinian liberation and an immediate end to all occupation. Zionists have weaponized Jewish grief and trauma to gaslight the world and Jewish communities worldwide. They work hand in hand with colonial powers to continue oppression, genocide, and nightmares upon nightmares of violence in Palestine and worldwide. Today, we here say, not in our name, and in honor of our ancestors, let us all together say, free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
As we end our Seder with words of ancient Jewish yearning, we acknowledge Jerusalem's profound and sacred meaning for Gazans and for all Palestinians living under occupation. Today we have Adel, a Palestinian student at PSU, here to read this piece by Albir al-Masri titled, "It Took Me 3 Decades to Drive 1 Hour from Gaza to Jerusalem."
Thank you all for coming today. Okay. Earlier this year, the Israeli army gave me a permit to leave the 11 by 40 kilometer Gaza Strip for the first time in my life and travel to the United States for work. Last month, I left again, this time to see the rest of Palestine and Israel. The 1 hour trip from Israel-Gaza crossing to Jerusalem felt like a journey to a distant world. I'd always dreamed of smelling Jerusalem's air and hearing the call to prayer ring from its mosques. When the prospect of traveling there was still a distant dream, I told a colleague, "I just hope I have a chance to pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque before I die." I couldn't sleep the night before my journey to Jerusalem to perform Friday prayers at Al-Aqsa. All that stood between me and my dreams was a short drive and the Kalandia checkpoint, which divides Palestinians living in Ramallah to those in East Jerusalem, both within the occupied Palestinian territory. Having lived for years under Israeli closure, which has turned Gaza effectively into an open-air prison, what's a checkpoint when you possess a precious permit to leave, I asked myself. I was wrong. Packed tightly together, hundreds of Palestinians and I waited for metal turnstiles to turn 30 seconds every 15 or 20 minutes to allow a small group to advance and present their papers. An argument broke out when one person tried to cut in line. A woman fainted waiting for her turn. Was I about to miss perhaps the only chance in my life to pray at Al-Aqsa? I felt the humiliation of daily life under the occupation in the West Bank, of being made to feel I don't belong in my own homeland. 2 hours later, I finally walked through the turnstiles, showed a soldier my permit, and crossed over. We drove as fast as we could to Al-Aqsa and dashed inside. We missed the sermon, but the imam, as if waiting for us, called everyone to pray just as we arrived. Al-Aqsa was even more spectacular than I had imagined. I couldn't hold back the tears, both at the joy of beholding its beauty and the sadness that such a majestic place has witnessed a half-century of ugly, abusive military occupation, where soldiers control who can pray there. I also fell in love with Bethlehem, Nazareth, Jaffa, Acre, and Haifa during my whirlwind tour, snapping pictures everywhere I could to share with my family and friends back home. I'm now back in Gaza. I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to return, but I remember the sights, smells, and wait for the day that everyone in Gaza can travel freely. Thank you.
Everyone still have your song sheets?
Yeah.
Amazing. We're going to do number 5. We rise, humbly hearted rise, won't be divided, rise, with Spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here in hope, in prayer. We're right here in hope, in prayer. We find ourselves here in hope, in prayer. We're right oppressors surround us. Rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise up from the wreckage. Rise with tears and with courage. Rise fighting for life. We rise. One more time. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise, humbly hearted, rise. We won't be divided. Rise with Spirit to guide us. Rise in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise, all of the children rise, with elders with wisdom rise, ancestors surround us rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise up from the wreckage. Rise with tears and with courage. Rise fighting for life. We rise in hope, in prayer. We find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here.
Okay, we're about to close. Thank you all so much for being here. Yeah, this is truly a Passover unlike all other Passovers, and I'm just really glad to be here with you all and anti-Zionist community and anti-Zionist Jewish community. Wanted to point out a couple of things. One is we have some beautiful zines by our comrades Mel and Zena on how to do a BDS Passover Seder. We know there's still 6 more nights left of Passover. So if anyone's curious about how to integrate BDS into your Passover Seders, you can go grab one. Taylor's holding them up back there. There's also some at the orientation table by Rivka. Check it out. You can use it next year too. Yeah. And another thing I just wanted to name and lift up is we're here at this federal office building in the midst of an enormous military aid bill that you all probably know about, right? The House voted to pass a $95 billion aid bill, right? $95 billion, including up to $26 billion going to Israel. Yeah. The sort of like procedural vote happened today. I don't think they did the actual vote, but I just want you to know we are lucky to be in a district where Blumenauer actually voted not to pass the bill in the House. He was one of only 36 Democrats to do so. And at the Senate level, Wyden and Bernie Sanders are, as far as I know, the only two, Merkley and Sanders were one of just a couple of senators who voted not to go forward with the process, with the procedure. But so we can use that to leverage Wyden, right, who's in this office. So I just really encourage you all to call Wyden's office tomorrow or today and let him know, hey, like, Oregon wants this. You can do this as an Oregon representative. We're here. Let's do this. You'll have the support of Oregonians. Those are just a couple of things I wanted to add. One of the main reasons why we're here today is to put pressure on Wyden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So our Seder's coming to a close. As our Seder now comes to a close, let our voices now join with the collective voices of Palestinian people. Let our words reflect our solemn commitment to the true and total liberation of Palestine and the promise it represents to us all. May this day come in our own lifetimes, and may we do what we must do to make it so. Let us carry this message into the streets as we exit. Let's chant. No more occupation.
No more occupation.
Next year in liberation.
Next year in liberation.
No more occupation.
No more occupation.
Next year in liberation.
Next year in liberation.
No more occupation.
No more occupation.
Next year in liberation.
Next year in liberation.
No more occupation.
No more occupation.
Next year in liberation.
Next year in liberation.
Free, free, free Palestine.
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 From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
All right, thank you all. Hag Pesach Sameach.
Okay, one quick announcement from a Zaytuna community member.
Sorry, I just want to make a quick announcement. She mentioned phone banking and calling Senator Wyden. I lead a phone banking group across 50 states, and we call our senators every single day. We have about 10,000 members. I can share the link. I can share the QR code to them, and they can post it. We call all our congressmen in the state of Oregon and other states every single day. Today, we are for every call, we are donating $1 to UNRWA. Our goal is to raise $10,000. We've raised like $8,000. This isn't a pitch for you guys to donate today, but if you guys want to join the movement and call and pressure our senators and congressmen, this is another way we can create change. Thank you.
so much. All right, y'all, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.